Another bad day for Red Bull fans as more bad news regarding the RB20 revealed. McLaren launched an investigation to find out why Lando has horrible starts, and Ocon reveals how his rocky relationship with Gasly has been. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. McLaren's Andrea Stella has said some emphasis will be put on figuring out whether Lando Norris's first lap issues are a pattern or just circumstantial. Norris has failed to convert any of his F1 pole positions into a race victory, and following another difficult start to a race in Belgium, his first lap struggles will be explored in greater detail by his McLaren team. Norris started the Belgian Grand Prix from 4th place, only to fall to 7th after turn 1, as he put a wheel in the gravel simply by running slightly wide out of La Source. This incident came just after he fell down to 3rd from pole position at the race start in Hungary, while his pole position in Spain turned into 3rd on the first lap. The most egregious mistake came in the Chinese GP sprint, when Norris fell down to 7th on the opening lap from his first-place grid slot, consistently losing places on the first lap despite producing great qualifying results. Andrea Stella downplayed the significance of the errors, but explained that McLaren would work with Norris to identify opportunities to do better in these situations. These kinds of situations, they're always very marginal, Stella told media, including PlanetF1.com, after the Belgian GP error. I think Lando got a little distracted from what was happening on the inside and ran out of track. It's marginal things like this, I think, require little adjustments here and there. Certainly we work with Lando, like we work with Oscar Piastri, to try and see all the opportunities in which we can improve individually, but also collaborate better, to either be more prepared or to use better our abilities and talents. I think it doesn't necessarily change our attitude, but definitely gives us some elements to analyze as to how some of these missed opportunities manifest themselves. Like for Lando, for instance, he looks like there are statistically some opportunities that tend to happen in the early stages of the race, so we need to check whether this is for a reason or it's just random. But like any other athlete or any other driver, I think Lando himself will talk to the team. We like to think, what can I do better? To make sure we capitalize on the good work we are doing. I think he was in a good starting position still, but then once we lost the position at the start with this low deg and difficult overtaking, we definitely made our life difficult. With F1 taking a mandatory 2-week shutdown for the summer break, Norris explained his perspective on his difficult starts and said he's welcoming a chance to take a breather from the relentless F1 calendar. I think I just need it to reset, Norris told media, including PlanetF1.com, in reference to the summer shutdown. I've given away a lot of points over the last 3-4 races just because of stupid stuff and mistakes, bad starts. I don't know why. It's just silly things, it's not even difficult stuff. It's just turn 1, try to stay out of trouble, try to make sure there's a gap and not get hit, and I put myself off the track, so just some stupid things. The pace is good, the team is doing an amazing job, so I'm happy. And in a way, I feel like I just don't want to take a break. I just want to continue because we're in good form. Even today, I feel like the pace was very strong, but just the last 2-3 races, I've just not clicked as much as I needed to and given up a lot of points. Obviously, my starts have not been great. I've lost probably a good amount of points off the line and now turn 1 again, easily a podium or even more. There isn't one reason. It's just probably trying a bit too hard and paying the price for that. So hopefully I can come back strong. Generally speaking, Ferrari are the team associated with lackluster mid-season development. Just 2 months ago, Fred Vasseurs' squad introduced an update in Spain that derailed their trajectory. However, in a surprise to the F1 world, Red Bull are also suffering from a downward spiral. For the first time in over 2 years, Red Bull are struggling to find a solution. In the early rounds of 2024, Red Bull were in a relatively comfortable position. Max Verstappen was securing victories consistently, while Sergio Perez regularly found himself on the podium. Unfortunately for the team based in Milton Keynes, this advantage has rapidly been eroded. Updates are no longer generating the desired usable downforce, with the Austrian outfit failing to bring meaningful innovations to the RB20. Ferrari issued the first warning in Australia as Carlos Sainz capitalized on Verstappen's DNF to win the race. McLaren soon signaled their own intentions in Miami, becoming the fastest team after bringing their first major 2024 upgrades. Andrea Stella's team have maintained this advantage over Red Bull, despite very few updates arriving from Woking in the races since. Mercedes have also joined the battle at the front after finally getting up to speed with this generation of cars and their tendencies. Upgrades to the W15 have proven extremely effective, even if changes to track conditions can still upset balance. James Allison's technical team are no longer working with one hand tied behind their back. This gives the German constructor a reliable playform for the remainder of 2024 and, just as crucially, 2025. The budget cap forces teams to be efficient with their resources. Outfits with significant financial backing no longer have the same margin for error as in previous years. Because of these heightened stakes, Red Bull's latest update package in Hungary was particularly disappointing. Whilst having some impact, these modifications failed to unlock the performance desired from the factory. Given the quantity of parts introduced and money spent on their production, the end result is a concern for Red Bull. Unlike McLaren, who are within striking distance in the championship, Red Bull have already used a sizable chunk of their development budget. McLaren's Andrea Stella has spoken optimistically about the improvements he expects over the coming weeks. Conversely, Red Bull are struggling with diminishing returns in their search for lap time. These development concerns are one of many problems for Red Bull problems to contend with. Between Sergio Perez's performance struggles and the departure of key personnel, most recently Jonathan Wheatley, the reigning champions are on the defensive. Time will tell how they respond after the summer. Daniel Ricciardo believes a lack of consistency can be a big downfall amidst rumors this could be his last season on the grid. Although Ricciardo was handed a reprieve by Red Bull earlier this week when the team confirmed he will continue with VCARB after the summer break, his long-term future is by no means secure. 2 months ago, Red Bull confirmed his teammate Yuki Tsunoda would continue with VCARB next season, but no mention was made of the Honey Badger. Instead, he was hounded by rumors that he could lose his race seat when F1 pauses for the summer break, potentially replaced by reserve driver Liam Lawson. But with Red Bull confirming Ricciardo will stay put, at least for now, the Aussie concedes he needs to be more consistent if he wants a shot at holding on to his race seat for next season. Ricciardo, whose biggest points haul this season was his P4 at the Miami Sprint, has managed just 3 Grand Prix top 10 results to Tsunoda's 7. What I haven't done well, I would say, is probably just put it under the consistency bracket, he told Racing News 365. Sometimes it's knowing, sometimes it's still a bit unknown, but we haven't been able to just be that consistent Q3 guy or get the points every weekend. So that's where I haven't done well, week in, week out, and in this sport that could be a big downfall. But even adding that there have been moments he has done particularly well, he concedes, I'm not saying that's enough. But I do put quite a lot of weight on that, especially at this point in my career when people are asking, does he still have it? Is he getting on a bit? Sometimes it's knowing, sometimes it's still a bit unknown, but we haven't been able to just be that consistent Q3 guy or get the points every weekend. So that's where I haven't done well week in, week out, and in this sport that could be a big downfall. But even adding that there have been moments he has done particularly well, he concedes, I'm not saying that's enough. But I do put quite a lot of weight on that, especially at this point in my career when people are asking, does he still have it? Is he getting on a bit? At 35, Ricciardo is one of the oldest drivers on the grid, but he reckons, like Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, he's still got it. He just needs to show that more in the remaining 10 races of the season as Red Bull contemplate their second drivers for both Red Bull Racing and VCARB. Hamilton and Alonso have proven you can still do it at an older age, he insisted. At least the big results have been big enough where people then say, oh, he can still put a good lap together, or he can put a very, very good lap together. I guess what I'm trying to say is, fortunately, the stopwatch can still be a very good one, and for whatever reason, the consistency hasn't been there, so I've got to sort that part out. But what I'm happy about is, I've still got it, and it's just up to me to show it more often. But I think the it factor, when people question that at least more than once, I've been able to say, okay, I can do it. I've just got to sort my shot out. Red Bull will promote from within its Formula One team to replace departing sporting director Jonathan Wheatley. Wheatley will leave Red Bull at the end of the current campaign after an 18-year stint at the F1 World Champions. The 57-year-old will become the Audi F1 team principal in a switch after overhauling its own management structure. The German car giant has taken over Swiss-based Sauber with a view to producing its own car and engine for the 2026 season, but had struggled to make significant progress and lost out on signing its main driver target Carlos Sainz to Williams. Autosport understands that Audi's new chief operating and technical officer, Mattia Binotto, the former Ferrari team boss, did not have any hand in Wheatley's appointment. Sources say Red Bull will look to replace Wheatley from within the organization, giving the team the chance to freshen up their management structure. While Christian Horner will remain in control, Wheatley and Adrien Newey's subsequent departures means that Red Bull will be forced to reorganize its structure and pit wall. That could see the return of the team manager role rather than the sporting director title held by Wheatley. This would be of considerable benefit as Red Bull looks to trim costs to comply with F1's cost cap. While Wheatley's and Newey's departures will lead to an increase in speculation that Red Bull is in turmoil, another school of thought is that the team is in a state of evolution, with veteran staff making way. Designer Pierre Wascha was offered new terms just days before Newey's departure was confirmed, and it is likely that a new target has been identified for Wheatley's role. It was well known within the paddock that Wheatley harbored aspirations to be a team boss. At the start of the year, he was linked with Horner's job when the latter was facing an internal investigation. That had created an uneasiness within the team before Wheatley signed a letter of support, pledging his faith to Horner, who signed him from Benetton in 2006. Red Bull could now split the position held by Wheatley, possibly by promoting Gianpiero Lambiase, who is already head of race engineering as well as Max Verstappen's race engineer. Another senior figure would be responsible for acting as a team manager in negotiations with the FIA. However, sources say it is unlikely to look for external candidates and sees the departures of high-paid staff simply as evolution. Departing Alpine team boss Bruno Famin admits Esteban Ocon's clash with Pierre Gasly at the Monaco Grand Prix was the evidence that it was time for a change for both parties. Ocon courted controversy at the Monaco Grand Prix when he dive-bombed his teammate on the opening lap of the street race, crashing into Gasly and causing race-ending damage to his own A524. Team boss Famin was notably fuming and spoke to the French media of consequences, leading to speculation Ocon could be sidelined for a race weekend. But while that did not come to pass, the team announced the week after Monaco that Ocon would be leaving the team at the end of the season. Famin says it was time. He told the Beyond the Grid podcast, "I think it was time. It's always a case by case. I think it was the right time for both parties to split. I'm quite happy we are splitting with a very good relationship. There is no clash, no problem. I'm sure we are going to talk about Monaco." But pressed on the public perception that because of Monaco all may not be well between the Frenchman and his soon-to-be former team, the 62-year-old replied, "It was the visible part of the iceberg, Monaco. It was the evidence that it was time to change for both parties. We need dynamic in the team. We need to change instability, the movement, and you cannot be so stable like that. You need to bring new ways, new ideas. A new driver would bring new things. And same thing for him, having a different environment will enable him to improve certain things. I'm 100% sure it would be good for everybody, for him as well. In fact, it's a bit of a paradox. But since we decided to split our ways, maybe the relationship is more calm. I'm very happy that a few years ago, we have been able to deliver a winning car in Hungary 21. Ocon won the race. It was a very good moment. I would have loved to be with his family there for that. But yeah, I think the relationship is good." The Frenchman also revealed a few details about his conversation with Ocon after Monaco, after it was pointed out he was clearly fuming in the immediate aftermath of the Grand Prix. But when it came to speaking to Ocon, he was not rude as he feels when something important needs to be said. Being rude defeats the purpose. "To me, it's totally useless to be rude," he explained. "We had a chat with Esteban, of course, after Monaco this year. As we had a chat with both of them after Japan last year, and you know when the story of swapping positions," he said. "To me, the way to talk to say it's good, it's not good, to say the things I think are important to take on, it's useless to be rude. You mentioned you saw I was upset. Normally I don't have anything to add. People see my face and know if I'm happy or not happy. And that's enough. After we needed to discuss what happened to make sure it won't happen again and do the best for the future, and the things we need to do together. Alpine have yet to confirm who will replace Ocon next season, with reserve driver Jack Doohan said to be on the verge of being announced. That means Alpine will no longer have an all-French driver, but that's not important to Famin. "I'm quite sure that we don't have a different setup than the other teams," he said. "Everybody knows the main competitor for a driver is his teammate, and there was a lot of noise about Ocon versus Gasly and Gasly versus Ocon. But I'm sure that in all the teams it's the same kind of situation. Look on the track what's happened. Russell versus Hamilton, Leclerc versus Sainz. I think they're all racers. They're all fighters. They want to beat their teammate. This is just normal. Since Pierre joined the team at the start of 23, there's been no specific problem due to that. As for the two of them being French, I think to me it's much better because when I talk to them, I'm much more comfortable speaking in French. Except that it doesn't really matter to have a French, British driver or whatever the nationality. We need the guy who would bring the best to the team. Former Alpine and Aston Martin team principal Otmar Szafnauer explained how Adrien Newey would not be a disruptive appointment wherever he lands next, from conversations he has had with people to have worked with him. While Szafnauer's career path has never crossed directly with the outgoing Red Bull chief technology officer, he has worked with enough mutual colleagues to believe that, wherever he moves, every team would welcome him at the top of their technical department. The first element for the sport's fated design guru to take will be leaving Red Bull, which he and the team confirmed would take place in the first quarter of 2025. By then he would be free to take on his next role within Formula One. Ferrari and Aston Martin are believed to be the teams pursuing his signature, with a potential return to Williams or McLaren having also been reported at different times, though Newey has made it clear on multiple occasions his mind is not made up as of yet. When he does join a new team, however, Szafnauer said that the work that will have gone into the 2026 car will be such that his influence may not be felt as keenly as it will be on his next employer's 2027 Challenger. By April of next year, most teams will have that aerodynamic sprint going already for the following year, Szafnauer explained on the James Allen on F1 podcast. However, Adrien has done an outstanding job every time there is a big rule change. He's known for not wanting to be in the meetings where the rules are actually debated, decided, written down, and have input and feedback on them, because he wants to just read them for what they are and not be tainted with knowing where the rules came from, so he can find loopholes. If he's coming in April, he'll have an impact, less of an impact on the 26 car than maybe a mid-season upgrade or the 27 car, but still an impact. By April, the architecture will be set out, the gearbox design will almost be done. Soon thereafter, you're starting on gearboxes, the chassis design will be well on its way, and a lot of the aerodynamicists will have switched over to the 26 car. Given Newey would be arriving at the top of the technical structure in which he is hired, with 25 combined drivers and constructors' titles under his belt through designs he has led, it was put to Szafnauer about the possibility of upsetting the structures already in place at the team for which he does end up signing. But because he is so successful and his reputation is as it is, the former Aston Martin and Alpine team boss cannot foresee an issue, with the current Red Bull chief technology officer taking an approach that sees him lead while allowing others to perform their jobs correctly. It's a really good question. You know, if it wasn't Adrien Newey and you did that, then that's a real consideration, Szafnauer said when asked about the possibility of existing team structures being put out of joint with Newey's arrival. What you don't want to do is upset the rest of the apple cart because nowadays, with 1,000 people working in a Formula One team, it is really truly a team effort. You can't just rely on one person, and if that one person upsets the team too much, then it's not worth having him, independent of how good he is. But with Adrien and his reputation and the way he works, I would think every team would welcome him. And from what I understand, I've never worked with him. But I've worked with people who have, like most recently, Pat Fry at McLaren, and he gives big picture direction. He also looks at the details of the car, but other areas that aren't his, he leaves to everyone else to get on with. So there's a good combination of big picture direction, some detail, but you guys do your jobs as well. Like I said, I haven't worked with him. I would imagine he wouldn't be that disruptive dropped into any of those teams. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.